Hi Girja, can you hear me? We're just waiting for everybody to log in and let's get going. Hi Shweta, can you hear me okay? Girja, can you hear me? All right. Hi. Oh, Ian's here. We're giving it a few. We're going to start at 8:01. Um, just waiting for everybody to log in, and I'll give an introduction for those of you who have been very kindly tuning in to these chats and checking out these playlists. We are very grateful. We love the feedback that you've given and the fact that you are actually listening to music. Um, so every week we have a very special person that we invite, and we ask them to sort of chronicle their journey in the industry. They may or may not be musicians, but many of them are, and look at it through the lens of music. And look at their lives through music. And I think it's a great way to share a perspective without having to actually say anything. So today's guest is extremely special to us. Girja Shankar Bora is a very accomplished sound engineer and designer, and he, along with his business partner Vikas Narula, started Depot 29, which became 48 in New Delhi, and it really did provide a platform that created a huge wave of opportunity for independent musicians. And Girja is really one of the most humble, kind, and considerate people I know. And I think it's really nice to have people like this in the community who are also on the other side of the stage, right? And provide experiences for us like this. So without any further ado, let me try and see if I can find. Here we go live with Depot Records. Let's try and get Girja on. Okay. There he is. Kirch, can you say something?
Hello, check 1, 2, 3.
Outstanding. There we go. Well, look at that smile. There we are. So, guys, while you're listening to all of this and our chat, I just want to let you know that the playlist that Girja has made is already up. So it's in our bio, and you can, if you want to take a minute or so to just scroll over there, open it up. If you're on a laptop or on a parallel device, you can, because we'll talk a little bit about the playlist as well. We're talking to Girja, but we're also talking about the music that he's put together for us this weekend. So, Girja, tell us a little bit about this playlist. What were some of the things you were thinking about as you put this together?
Uh, Primarily, like I think over the course of my life, there have been a few people who've influenced the music that I've listened to. And when I was making this playlist, I was actually thinking about them. I mean, the first one actually being my mother, who, uh, when we were young, played a certain kind of music for us. Obviously, her influences, and uh, and then at a later stage in my life, it was like my brother-in-law who introduced me to, uh, a kind of a different styles of music. I mean, he lived in a hostel a lot of his life, and I guess when you live in a hostel, you get these numerous influences from various people who come from all over the country.
Of course.
So that kind of percolated into uh, you know his uh, his favorites in music, and he passed that on to me in some way. So yeah, a few like that. Obviously, Monica, my wife, she
Of course.
has been very influential in the kind of music that I now listen to. But as you will notice that a lot of the playlist is from, let's say, starting from the 50s. coming up to, let's say, the 90s, maybe touching on, the late 90s, but that's about it. I haven't put in anything there which would, which a teeny bopper would like, for example. My niece would never like this playlist. She'd say,
Uh, as in it's pre-millennial.
it's pre-millennial, yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's
Well, even better, even better. I mean, let's give all our millennial patrons and students and all of those an opportunity to listen to this great stuff. It actually starts off with something that I never heard, and I love this tune today. I mean, Divya and I were dancing to it upstairs. It's called "Is It Love" by Mr. Mister, and what a tune! It is such an iconic, or at least sounds iconic, sort of 80s. Depeche Mode type, but more upbeat. Very, very cool. Very, very, very cool tune. I have to just thank Monica for helping me do some homework and research. I know she's on, and
oh God, I feel like I'm going to be in an exam, and I hate exams. Like,
it's not an exam. No. First of all, I hope you have. I have some. I have some wine with me. I hope you have a drink that you've got.
I do have, but it's like the good old water, actually. But yeah.
Okay. All right. Good. But I wanted to just talk a little bit about how before there are certain parts of your life, for example, when you got into sound design, right? And then eventually you got into Depot, you started all of these efforts. What was it in your childhood that drew you to music? And I know you grew up in Lucknow. Is that right?
I was born in Lucknow. We spent some time, my father was in a transferable job. So, well, yeah, we moved a lot. We were nomads almost.
So where did you go? Where all did you go? And how did you get access to music? What did you listen to? Tell us a little bit about that.
The one thing that I should say this later, but when you don't have something, you feel the paucity of it, and you kind of crave to look or search for influences from either people or get access to some sort of mixtapes, coming from maybe Europe or America, or maybe where your relations are. And I'm sure we've been through all of that,
Of course.
So I think that was a lot of it. I mean, obviously my parents, because they traveled a fair bit. They bought back a lot of music, which we then listened to. My grandparents were into music themselves in a big way. My grandmother she would have been a really huge singer if she hadn't got married and had 7 children.
Right.
They came from a film background. So I think all of that kind of, somewhere seeped into the genes, or, when we were growing up, them visiting us, etc. So yeah, those are basically influences. Yeah, but to answer your question, we moved around, quite a bit. 2 years here, 1.5 years there, things like that.
Amazing. But across India?
No. What happens in the government is that you choose a cadre to be in. So my father was in the UP cadre.
Okay.
And so we moved within UP quite a few, cities and the hills.
Amazing.
So it was like a good mix. Well, I don't know whether it was a good mix, but well, it was fun.
So then what brought you to, when did you figure out that sound design was your calling? How did you get to that? Because that's not an easy thing to have come to, right? You have to have loved music, you have to have loved movies, you have to decide that, well, this is something I want to do and I can do it. And this must have been in the 90s that you went to school for this, right? To college for this.
That's correct. Actually, I was tired of making omelets and coffee at a place that I was interning in. I was just sick of doing that. And then I don't think I was really crazy about the long hours also. So, and I thought that if I had a proper education, that it would allow me a few more choices.
But when you had made this decision, you went to college in Bombay, right? You were at Xavier's. Yeah. And is that at that point, did you know that you were going to study sound design and you were going to go deeper into this and engineering, get into this world?
No, I don't think so. I think I didn't quite know till I actually applied to film school. And I realized that, there are 4 streams in film school primarily: direction, cinematography, editing, and sound. And there came a point in that process of applying that you had to make a decision. You had to choose your top 3 or whatever. And I had to ask myself, I had to dig deep and ask myself, what is it that I really love doing? And because I had some sort of background in music. I had been in bands, like most of us have in school and college. Then in
Right.
Bombay, that
Right.
sound was like the closest thing that I. So yeah, I mean, this is truth. Like I didn't know right off the bat that I want to do sound or something
Right.
like that. It was. I would say it was more like a process of elimination than anything else. To kind of having. But God has strange ways. I made that choice, and that choice was the right choice.
So you were working on films right off the bat, pretty much, right? I mean, you sort of got into this process. Did you have any notable early films that really, bolstered this idea that yeah, I can do this, and
Um,
then applied because eventually this all led to you going through Calcutta,
it did. It did. No, initially, I worked primarily on music videos. There was this gentleman by the name of Ken Ghosh. He was
right?
like one of the top. He was probably the only. Oh yes, I should say top music video director those times. This is 90s, mid 90s, and he's the guy. I mean, I shouldn't say it aloud, but he's the guy who has to make coffee and chai and omelets. And I was like a gopher, like
But what
never.
kind of music videos were these? I'm curious because that must have been, were these for Bollywood? Were they ad? I mean, what was it like?
It was everything from Nusrat Javed Akhtar to Daler Mehndi to who was that gentleman? Not Bali Sagu, but uh, Aap Jaisa Koi Meri. Who's done that?
Okay,
Bidu. I mean, so it was a range of stuff. Like I, I must have maybe worked with him for about 10, 15 of those, and it was really exciting because suddenly it's like all glitzy, bright lights and smoke and uh, beautiful looking people, that kind of thing. So
amazing.
a lot of fun. Am I answering your questions right? Well, yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah, yeah,
going.
you are. Yeah, I
I'm
mean, we're trying
I'm
to
segueing
understand.
into I'm
No, no,
segueing
no, no,
into
no.
stuff.
I mean, you're exactly in the space that you need to be in. This is great because we want to understand what drove you up to a certain point, right? I mean, these are little. I mean, even just for me as a friend to know how you went from Bombay to Calcutta to Delhi to all of these things. All of it leads to Depot Records and Depot 48. So it's important for us to look at all these motivations.
Yeah,
Um, so then you decided Calcutta, Satyajit Ray's School of
film
Film,
school. Yeah,
and that
yeah.
must have been pretty incredible.
Best years of my life actually, because more than anything else you were exposed to two films a day. I mean, it was almost uh,
To just to watch and analyze.
yes. I mean, apart from doing classes and going into the lab, developing photographs, doing all kinds of stuff. I mean, it was after all a new, like, freshly painted institute, so there was lots to do. Like there were
Amazing.
amazing equipment to play around with and all. But I think the biggest influence film-wise was just watching cinema. Just seeing the greats. There were a lot of traveling retrospectives which used to happen. So you would see one director, 10 films, back to back. And you really, when
Amazing.
you do that, it's just like listening to music from one particular artist. You kind of understand what they're trying to tell you, somewhere. So that influence was phenomenal. I mean, I have to say Calcutta is up there, with
Amazing.
the best 4 or 5 years of my life, 4 years actually of my life. Yeah.
Amazing. And right after that, I mean, you just got straight into the world of sound design. You went. I mean, can you walk us all the way through up to the pink sarees?
Why?
I want to
Why?
hear. I want to know. I want to know because that's a pretty amazing story right there, right? I mean, it was such in well
I'll,
received movie and
I'm gonna nutshell it. I'm gonna nutshell it
okay,
really quickly.
yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
post sort of finishing the diploma in Calcutta, I came to Delhi because Delhi was home. We had a home in Delhi, so that was home. And Delhi is full of documentary filmmakers, and
Mm,
I was somehow attracted to working in smaller crews to begin with. I didn't want to kind of get into the 250 plus crews where you're kind of lost. You don't know, it's not friendly. So I was looking at something which would also kind of help me hone my skills as something called a production sound mixer, which is the guy who records sound on location primarily, records dialogue, records music, whatever it is. documentary gave me that, I mean, sort of gave me the opportunity to, hone my skills. Um,
Right.
and that, I mean, I did that for almost 5 to 7 years before I started uh, making it into the crews of, let's say, the film production companies that came from abroad and they were shooting in
Okay.
India. So it started with documentary, international production companies which came into India, and then slowly it went on to film. So I didn't do any of the big, really huge films, but I did quite a few which were like, which went to, I don't know, some of them went to the Oscars. Uh,
Wow.
I mean, they were, I would say they were mid-level kind of, films, but big directors.
And,
Uh,
and and on the festival circuit, right? A lot of
Also on
it.
the
Yeah.
festival circuit,
Yeah.
but also for release, on theaters all across the world. So that, and then I'm going to quickly come to Pink Sarees. I don't want to bore you, but
Not at all.
I got the chance to. So I did that for a little while, for about 5 years, and then I again realized that I was, my love for documentary was still alive, and I wanted to get back to it. And it's funny how when you wish for something, and you wish for it hard enough, it just comes to you. And I got the opportunity to produce and do sound on this film with this lady filmmaker from London. Her name is Kim Longinotto, and we were in like the dirtiest part of the world, I would say, shooting for about 95 days um, on this film, which came to be called Pink Sarees, which went around the world, probably to 150 plus festivals, invited to 150 plus festivals,
Amazing.
and then eventually landed up in the lap of BAFTA. We missed it by a whisker. We got nomination, but we still missed it by a whisker. But I mean, that's not important. The important thing is that
Right.
it was a film that it completely, wrung me out as a filmmaker, as a sound engineer, but in a good way. It was like one of the best. After Calcutta, it was probably one of the best experiences that I had working on a production.
So, I mean, I'm curious, and I know a lot of students here would be interested in understanding what exactly goes into sound design. How do you go through a project like that? I mean, there's a lot of preparation. How closely is sound design and the production of this linked to the script? How much of it do you have to prepare before you go into these projects? What is this world like?
I mean, now it's become very specific. Sound design is very different from production sound, is very different from Foley, is very different from obviously background scoring.
Right.
Initially, what I did was production sound, which go into a situation where you're working on a documentary
Yeah.
for a film, and you are on set. Can you hear me? Can you hear
Yeah,
me
yeah,
right now?
yeah. I can hear. Somebody's trying to reach you too, I think.
Yeah, I'm so sorry about that.
That's okay.
And you're the guy who's basically carrying a ton of equipment, walking alongside the cinematographer or the cameraman, and recording music, effects, etc. Whatever you can pick up, so that it kind of enables the post production mixer to have like a palette of sounds for him available.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Sound design is totally different, which is what we do now at our recording studio. Is that somebody has already done all this work, and the film comes to us edited, and then we start putting in emotional value into it via sound,
Right.
and create something which obviously puts forth, moves the narrative forward a little bit or a lot, depending upon how
Right.
good or bad the film is. So that's what design actually implies in a very broad, general kind of way.
And I'm sure if someone applies to school now, to film school, and they're looking at these options, right? I mean, these are all segregated now. So within sound, you have sound design, Foley, sound, sort of production sound, all of these things. Was there a point when all of this was aggregated? You just learned everything?
I mean, there's no one opportunity that you can learn everything. The only opportunity you get is when you actually start working on projects. That's the only way
Right.
that actually comes all together. And I mean, we've been lucky, blessed, whatever you might call it. But now we are starting to work on projects which actually allow us that whole sort of range of the different departments that are so specific in sound. Yeah.
No, but that's really interesting because now you're not just dealing with the film industry, right? You're dealing with what are they called, OTT, with all the Amazons and the Netflix, and there's just a surge of content that's coming out, and the production value, which includes sound production, is so incredible. It's so fascinating. I mean, we've been watching such great content coming out of India. And you've been involved in some stuff with Netflix as well. Are you at liberty to talk about some of the projects? I mean, we're living vicariously through your words. So please do share.
So, unluckily enough, we haven't worked on a full length project for either Amazon or Netflix, but we've been involved with Leela and Sky is Pink.
Okay.
And like there's a ton of more. There's a ton more projects, but we haven't done like sort of a turnkey sort of thing for any OTT platforms yet. But the contributions that we've made have been very good learning, because the speed is very different from working on a film. You have a very strict deadline. It's not like you can push it by a month.
Okay.
So sometimes you're kind of you'll be working 24 hours at a stretch, and trying to deliver stuff. So it's very exciting. It's exciting. There's huge learning, very enriching, I would say.
For those of you who don't know, Girija has also been really great at building an ecosystem, a little family of partners and people who he works with who have been integral to sound engineering and mixing at Deepo, for all the gigs that we used to do, but have also become part of Deepo Records now, right?
Yes.
Lohit and everybody else who used to be there. So that's been really exciting. I mean, everyone gets, who's been part of this really sort of learns on the fly.
Yeah, for all of us, for actually all of us. I mean, I learn every time we've done shows at Deepo. There's some things to learn from these boys. I mean, they bring a lot of energy, a lot of spirit to whatever we do. And then the studio environment is very different. You're kind of doing different stuff. It's very collaborative.
Right.
And yeah, all of us are it's like the school of sound.
Well, it's interesting because there must be such a. All the production that you're doing now? I mean, it's so global. The idea of getting projects, and a lot of these houses. My question is, a lot of it's in Bombay as well, right? A lot of this work is out of Delhi. So, how do you sort of do the development around this? How do you pitch for projects, or do they just come to you? What's the ecosystem for actually getting the work in this space?
You're asking me trade secrets, Karan. What's going on?
No, listen, everybody wants to know. You don't have to give us the specifics. You know what I mean. Who's your guy?
Well, I mean, I have to say that because I guess when you're in an industry for a little while, you start getting known, and I'm not saying that I am, but I mean, my mantra is that do a project really well. Give everything that you have. It doesn't matter what it pays you. It doesn't matter where it's getting you. Really, I mean, I just feel that just give it your best, whatever your best is, and that's how work comes back. I don't know why I say this. Maybe it's very generic, but it's kind of worked.
Yeah, I mean, quality. I mean, it's true with any product that you're building and selling. In fact, we're going to have a conversation with Vasundhara in a couple of weeks about how do young artists go out and create products, or something that has quality, something that sounds good, looks good. I'm going to let her talk about this, but it's really exciting, and I think it really does, because the idea of getting work is different from doing the work too, right? And they're linked, but it's important to have an idea of how you're going to develop your business, how you're going to do all these things. But that's great. That was just on the top of my head. I really wanted to know how it is working in Delhi and getting work which is clearly settled in Bombay.
Yeah. Let me interrupt you for a second. Wait.
Yeah.
So maybe I should get into one nut and bolt on this. Is that recently, like Lohit Bhalla, Abhishek Singh, and I worked on last year. We were very lucky to have work last year, all things considered. We worked on a few projects where we had to design content for museums, like Sonny Lumiere's or walkthroughs, installation, audio installation.
Interesting.
And uh, I have to say that the one way to get so we got into this work. It's very much like doing film because it has all the elements of a film, but it's for different end sort of different end product. And the way to get work like that is to maybe get in touch with architecture companies who are doing that kind of work, because things like museums and Sonny Lumiere's, etc. The starting point is always an architecture company, a really good, well-known architecture company. And we've been kind of pushing on that front quite a bit because it's very interesting work. It kind of brings together not just film, but more than just film. We're doing, and it's very I mean, it's very engaging work. It's very hard work. And again, you're kind of meeting deadlines. And when it all comes onto gigantic screens, sometimes 60-meter by 30-meter screens,
wow,
it's amazing to see.
That's incredible.
It's bigger than film in that sense. So yeah, to get into how you get work like that is that you get in touch with companies which do this, and which is primarily architecture, design, those kind of firms.
Very interesting. I mean, that's really cool that there are these little niches in every industry, right? And you find them and you love them and you get to really grow into them. That's really cool. In fact, Ihsan had asked a few minutes ago, do you create your own libraries for sound? Yes. Okay.
Yes, we actually do. And and it happens automatically because you're working on a film set. You will obviously record as much sound as you can, move, wherever you've gone, whichever location that you've gone to. And sometimes you get great stuff, and then you start building a bank slowly.
I mean, we do a lot of video editing here. I can't imagine how organized one has to be to record stuff in the field and then figure out how to categorize it and label it and put it all back together when you get back home. That's a whole different ballgame. I mean, hats off to anybody who can be that organized. So,
well, I don't know whether we are, but now since we are content providers, I think you just have to kind of get with it.
Learn how to do that.
Yeah.
Well, that gets us to Depot, right? So, can you tell us? Many of us, or many of our friends and our colleagues and our students and our faculty haven't visited Delhi. So I want to just give a little introduction to what Depot 29 really was. It was this iconic, and now Depot 48. When it started, it was just this incredible space that you walked into, and if you were a musician, you really felt like all ears were on you, and it really set a precedent for listening to music. And I think as an audience member, you always went there with the idea that you will listen to music. You had great food, you had everything else, but you had music first. So how did this come about? How did you sort of decide the idea of Depot?
Well, it happened actually one afternoon sitting at lunch with this chef called Ritu Dalmia, her partner Geeta, Vikas, and I. And we were just kind of, I don't know, it was not even a discussion about doing anything together. It was a casual lunch. And I mentioned to Ritu saying that, I really want to develop like a hub for the arts in Delhi, because I just find that over the years that, I'm not saying it's died, it's still there. There's still a Mandi house. There used to be an epicenter. But it kind of is not grown just, in proportion to the population, or in proportion to the people who are hungry for, material like that too. So she didn't say, okay, here's my checkbook, but she said, why don't we do this together? Because she's very keen on music. I mean, whenever we visit her house, she's always like the DJ, the in-house DJ. So she loves doing that. And she said, why don't we do this together? I'll bring the food, and Vikas and you, do everything else. You run the place. you know music, you know musicians, and it'll be fun. And that's how it started with actually Geeta, who's Ritu's partner, saying, "Why don't you guys do it together?" You know, and I have to say thank you very much, Ritu, because she was the one who pushed. I was kind of not, because I was not from the industry, right? I mean, hospitality is
Right.
another beast.
Right. Right.
So it was like, I'm not sure. I need to like think it over. She said, "What's there to think? You know, I'll give you all the support you need, uh, and let's do this." And that's how it sort of started.
That's incredible. And now it's evolved. So Depot 29 had to do with the zip code, and now it's shifted over to Depot 48.
Yes, yes,
So can you
yes.
tell us, a little, since I've also been away from Delhi pretty much for 4 years, now you found a new place. Can you describe a little bit, tell us a little bit about the new venue, what's in store?
Okay, so like it's like this. I mean, whenever you open a space, you're always on the lookout for another. That's always,
Right.
you
Yeah,
always want to grow the business in some way or
of
the other.
course. Of course.
And even before we opened 29, we were on the lookout for something in a slightly, like I would say, smaller footprint. But 29 gave us 3 floors, and it was pretty massive. When we got the place in Greater Kailash Part 1, which was a smaller footprint, I mean, it was something that we had always wanted originally, and we shifted 29 to 48, and unfortunately we had, I mean, well, the government came in and shut down a lot of places in Delhi, which were,
Right.
one of them was ours. And then when we shut down, we were again on the lookout for a new space. But we were very clear about one thing, that this time we wanted a space which would be separate for dining and separate for music,
Okay.
because the it's after all, it's the experience. And yes, the experience of eating and drinking and watching music is great, but it can sometimes come in the way of at least performers, um, yeah, maybe focus or concentration of performers, performing. So we looked and we found this place in Greater Kailash Part 2. For the people who don't know Delhi, it's all of this is South Delhi. Um, and we were lucky to find this space which is over 3 floors, which allows us one massive floor for just dining, which is like a sit down, and another floor which is just for music. I mean,
Amazing.
it's got a bar, etc., but it's right at the back, and it allows no interference for performers or performances. And then we have a really amazing terrace which looks out into, well, till some time back was a really amazing sky. Now there's traffic back on the road, so it's not like that anymore. But we currently have that, and uh, well, we know what's happened over the last 1.5 years. It's been opened and closed. Sorry,
Of course. But currently you're open for business.
currently we're open for business, and
Yes.
as soon as well, we're going to restart doing shows, live shows
Amazing.
soon. We were actually waiting for the government to maybe open up a few more restrictions. We wanted to also just be a little careful about
Yeah,
how many
of
people
course.
we'd want inside the space. But I think with things looking better now, we're going to soon start doing shows as well.
Well, this is great news. I mean, you guys are back in action, and I mean, I can't wait to get back to Delhi, go listen to some music, maybe one day play some music at the new depot. This will be really exciting. Cheers to that. Girija, I want to talk a little bit about the playlist since we put so much effort into this. And for all our viewers, those guys who are listening, if you want to take a 5-second Instagram swipe up and press on the link, you can get access to this amazing playlist on both Spotify, YouTube, and on Apple Music. So there's no excuse for you not to check it out. What was it like putting this together? Right, this is. I mean, you did talk about some of the things you were thinking about, but is it, if you're gonna put together a playlist for somebody else, right? You have to cut things out, you have to add things. How much time did it take to sort of put all this stuff together?
So, Karan, I've been totally selfish about this playlist because these are songs that I would want to listen to. I mean,
Yes.
yes, actually, that's not the idea of a playlist. The idea of a playlist is that you do stuff which everybody should want to listen to. But I just thought that maybe a different approach this time. Because I mean, okay, when we were
Amazing.
younger, we made mixtapes for our girlfriends, our boyfriends, whatever.
Right.
Then it became CDs. We used to burn CDs, and it's always been it's been like a passion to do that. I mean, we used to do that, right? And now it's so easy. You just
Right.
kind of drop stuff into like a virtual space. Um, but your question was, what was I thinking?
Well,
So
yeah, I'm just trying to think of the idea of putting this together, right? I mean, you have 15 million songs to choose from, right? So at the end of the day, there's a theme, there's something that comes to your mind, and yes, you think about the people who influenced you. You think about the idea that this is stuff that you want to listen to, and those are all the motivating factors in this. So, anything else? Anything else that's really struck out? Let me ask you a more specific question. Was there anything that you hadn't heard in maybe a decade that is in this list?
I think so. I think so. There might be. I think so. And it's so nice that this what we are doing today gave me the opportunity to actually revisit that.
Oh.
You know, I mean, it's. I mean, see, well. How should I say this? I've kind of stopped listening to music as much as I used to. Maybe because there's so much access to it now, and I'll be honest about it. I mean, that this was really refreshing to do, and I did it so quickly because it was like I asked myself, what is the music that I love to listen to, and it just kept on. And I apologized to you. I said, oh, the playlist has gone a little overboard. It's like 4 hours or something like that.
Not at all.
But I didn't even realize that it had gone to that much, you know. I mean, I was only halfway done, let me tell you the truth. You know, so
There's more. So we have to have you back for a second playlist then.
yeah. So yeah,
No, it's really cool. I mean, I'm just looking at it, right? I mean, what I love about this, and I love one of the things that I totally agree with the sentiment, and that is that I feel like I had stopped listening, or I was listening to music in certain boxes, and over the last sort of 2 months of having these playlists, I've been forced to listen to music again. Not forced, but like by virtue of doing this, because we have to check out all of these places, and everybody in the school is actually listening to music, and I think that's the whole point, is that even though all of this stuff is out there, music does have a connection with a memory, a person, or something. And I think that, like, if you look at this, and I hope people get a chance to see this, there's everything from the alternative of the 90s, the really sort of Depeche Mode, electro rock and pop of the 80s. I was talking to Abo about this today. Abo is a great drummer from New Delhi. You've got some Winger, Megadeth, and Def Leppard. I mean, hey guys, that's all what else do you need? Yeah, and then there's all this other beautiful stuff. You've got Groove Armada, all these great things that, there was this heyday of music in the 90s when MTV and VH1 came out, right? And it's amazing because I think what was interesting in that time was that you didn't have that many options, but you got deeper into the music that you liked. Like now, when I listen to something, the reason that I connect with so many tunes on a playlist like this is that you heard it so much. You heard it so often. And I don't think we have that chance anymore there's such incredible music coming out. But your exposure to it is so sort of limited and almost perfunctory, right? You go into things and next week there's something new to be listening to. And that's what, I mean, it's amazing and it's also sad in certain ways. So when you come back and you revisit all of these tunes, it's beautiful.
yeah,
So thank you for doing this. That was my point.
Thank you very much. And I have to say, before we go, I have to say you're doing an amazing job. Like, I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of the academy. It's really,
that's very sweet of you to say.
It's really, I mean, when you first moved, I was like, oh, we were just starting to become, friends, and you moved, and I was like, okay, it doesn't really matter if you're not physically there. Now it doesn't matter at all. But
yes.
But I mean, what you've done, what you guys have done together, I'm sure it's Divya also giving you, and Firoz giving you the inspiration. It's phenomenal, amazing, really amazing.
Thank you for doing this. It's actually great to see you and talk to you in, even though it's on a public platform like this, but to have this chance to get to know a little bit about how you came to Deepo and how everything leading up to that had this history and character of music. I think that's incredible. We didn't touch upon your life as a musician, but that's going to be for the next chat for sure, right?
Sure.
Guys, I just wanted to thank you all for tuning in. This is going to be up on Instagram later, and we usually have people come back and visit the interviews once they've checked out playlists and things. So whoever's checking this out, whenever, I hope you're safe, and do check out Depot 48 if you're in Delhi. The food's amazing, the music's amazing, and to see Vikas and to see Girja and occasionally Monica is an absolute treat. And if you're a musician, you got to go and play there. So I'm going to leave on that note. I just want to say a couple of things about what's happening at the Academy. We have a lot of activity here at the moment. We're trying to be very focused. We have Srinath and we have Siddharth, who have been here, and all our other faculty who've been really supportive in all of these endeavors. So I do have a special announcement to make, and that is that we've launched our Music Foundation course. And for anybody who's interested in learning music, this is something really special. And I hope that you guys can check out our Instagram page and check that course out and see if it makes sense. And even if not for you, if you think there's somebody who might benefit from this. So please do check it out. And that's it from my end. I'm really grateful, Girja, for you to take the time to do this. I have to thank Monica for taking, she took a lot of time out yesterday to give me a little, some key points. So thank you, Monica. And thank you guys for tuning in. Good night.
Thank you.
Bye, Girj.
Bye. Bye.